Welcome to the next chapter of Game of Thrones. The war for the Iron Throne has been won. Cersei has fallen, the Night King is no more, and Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen rule over Westeros. Sit back, relax, and prepare to witness a tale of ancient power, lost legacies, and the whispers of Valyria's ruins. The battle for the future has only just begun. The wind was a living thing, howling through the ancient boughs of the wirewood trees, whispering secrets in a tongue that no man could decipher. The weirwoods bled, their crimson sap glistening in the moonlight, thick as fresh spilled blood. The air was heavy with the scent of ice and old earth. Ravens burst from the canopy in an explosion of dark wings, their cries echoing through the silent wood. They fled as if chased by shadows unseen, their panic lost in the vast emptiness of the north. The flames from the torches flickered, casting long, restless shadows against the stone walls. Lords of the north gathered, their faces grim, their voices hushed with unease. Sansa Stark stood before them, regal and unshaken. Her auburn hair caught the firelight, though her blue eyes held only steel. Lord Glover leaned forward, his voice as grizzled as the bark of the trees that whispered in the night. The trees speak in tongues not heard for 1,000 years. Lord Manderly, his girth unchanged, but his countenance thinner than before, frowned. "The frozen rivers crack without cause, milady." Sansa did not flinch. The north has weathered worse storms than whispers. Yet in the farthest corner of the hall, Bran Stark sat unmoving. His body was here, but his mind was elsewhere. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of something older, something neither man nor child. "Something stirs beyond the wall," he said, his gaze unfocused, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is not dead. It was never dead." A hush fell over the room, as if winter itself had drawn a breath. The storm raged across Dragonstone, its fury lashing the castle walls as if the gods themselves were displeased. Lightning split the sky, and in its fleeting glow, the stone dragons loomed, their eyes hollow, their mouths open in eternal roars. But inside, another storm brewed, one that would shape the fate of Westeros. In the dim glow of her chambers, Daenerys Targaryen tossed in restless sleep. Sweat glistened on her brow, her fingers twitching as though grasping for something unseen. Valyria called to her, not the ruin it had become, but the city it had once been, alive with fire, power, and glory. The streets gleamed red under a sky filled with dragons, their wings stretching across the heavens like banners of conquest. She woke with a start, breath shallow, the taste of ash lingering on her tongue. "Fire is not lost," she whispered to herself, "only waiting to be claimed." Morning came, and the queen stood before her war table, its surface etched with the lands she ruled and the ones that had fallen to dust. Around her, wary eyes watched, Tyrion Lannister ever the skeptic, Jon Snow ever the believer. "The dreams are more than dreams," she declared, her voice unwavering. "Valyria calls to me." Tyrion leaned forward, his expression dark. "Your Grace, Valyria is death. The doom still lingers in those ruins." "The tales are just that," Jon interrupted. His gray eyes held the weight of ghosts. "Or perhaps it's a test. Your ancestors' legacy awaits." Tyrion Lannister unrolled the parchment in his hands, his fingers tapping against the sigil of Winterfell. "There is something more pressing needs your attention. Your Grace, the message bears Winterfell's seal. The old gods grow restless." Daenerys's violet eyes flickered with something unreadable. "We've only just won peace. Must we now wage war against myths?" Jon's expression darkened. "Bran sees what others cannot. If he warns us, we must listen." From the shadows, Davos Seaworth spoke, his voice rough as the seas he once sailed. "The old gods are older than dragons, Your Grace. Their anger could shake the realm." Silence stretched between them like a let silence reign for a moment, then turned to Grey Worm. "Prepare the ships. We leave for Valyria at dawn." And so they sailed, not for conquest, but for truth. The narrow sea churned as their fleet cut through the waves. Storm clouds thickened unnaturally, curling around them like fingers of something unseen. On the deck, Arya Stark stood at the prow, watching. "The stories say no one returns from Valyria," she murmured. "We're about to prove them wrong," Jon replied, though even he was not certain. The storm howled like a beast in the night, rattling the stones of Storm's End, that ancient fortress which had defied dragons and doom alike. The waves crashed against the cliffs below, their spray mingling with the scent of burning torches and wet steel. Beneath its vaulted roof, the great hall was alive with voices, lords and knights, men who had once pledged their swords to the throne, now restless with whispered oaths of defiance. At the heart of the gathering stood Gendry Baratheon, broad-shouldered and clad in the black and gold of his father's house. The crowned stag banners fluttered above him, the same sigil that had once heralded the fall of the Targaryens. He had the look of Robert, but there was something more. An iron in his stance, a fire in his eyes that had been tempered in the heat of the forge. "I stand before you," he declared, his voice carrying over the crowd like the hammerfall of a smith. "Not as the bastard blacksmith I once was, but as Robert Baratheon's son." The hall stirred, murmurs, glances exchanged. Bastard he had been, but the blood of kings coursed through his veins all the same. "My father took this realm with his hammer," Gendry continued, his words striking like steel against steel. "He ruled it with strength, not fear. And now, a foreign queen demands our submission, threatens us with dragonfire if we do not kneel." A ripple of unease passed through the gathered men, a memory rekindled. The Stormlands remembered. They remembered the taste of rebellion, the scent of fire and blood, when Robert had cast down the dragons before. Gendry raised his voice. "I ask you now, will we let our legacy die, or will we rise once more?" A roar answered him, steel clashing against steel, fists pounding against breastplates. The lords of the Stormlands did not kneel easily. The cry echoed through the stone halls, a war chant carried by the wind. The storm had been called, and it would not be stilled. As the mist parted, the ruins rose from the sea like jagged teeth, black stone towers twisted by fire and time, the bones of a fallen empire. "The graveyard of dragons," Tyrion muttered as they made landfall. But graves did not whisper. The secrets beneath the ash. The streets of Valyria curled in unnatural ways, twisting paths that seemed to change when one looked away. The air crackled with something old, something watching, as Daenerys traced her fingers across an ancient wall. Valyrian runes burned beneath her touch. "The heart of the flame sleeps until the blood of dragons returns," she read aloud. Jon, standing at her side, frowned. What does it mean? They found the answer in the ruins of an ancient temple. Rows of dragon eggs, untouched by time, their shells dark and pulsing with hidden life. "They survived," she breathed, awe creeping into her voice. But they were not alone. Figures emerged from the shadows, robed in crimson, eyes burning like embers. At last, their leader whispered in High Valyrian, "The one who returns." A price for fire. The cult had waited for centuries, guarding secrets no mortal should know. The power of old Valyria was not lost. It was merely sleeping, waiting for fire to awaken it. "Take what is yours," the cult leader murmured. "But fire alone cannot save you from what comes." Before she could ask what he meant, a shriek split the air. Stone men, cursed and twisted, faster and stronger than before. "They don't burn," Tyrion shouted as they fled through the ruins. They barely escaped, the dragon eggs safe in Daenerys' grasp. but the warning rang in her ears. A shadow over Westeros. Back in Dragonstone, she stood at the cliffs, the eggs resting beside her. She had brought back more than lost relics. She had stirred something from its slumber. Jon approached, his voice quiet. What did we awaken in that place? She did not answer at first. The horizon stretched before her, dark and boundless. Something that was never meant to be forgotten. Far away, in the north, the weirwoods wept blood. In King's Landing, shadows moved behind the Iron Throne. And on the winds of the world, a whisper traveled, ancient and knowing. Fire is not lost. Next day, dawn cast its golden light upon the Red Keep, but the air inside the throne room was colder than the winds beyond the wall. The Iron Throne sat in its place of dominion, the light catching on its jagged edges. 1,000 swords melted into one. Upon it sat Daenerys Targaryen, her silver hair like molten moonlight, her violet eyes dark with fury. She read from the parchment before her, the words searing into her mind like embers upon flesh. The bastard dares to challenge my claim? Her voice was sharp, an edge honed by fire and loss. Jon Snow stood nearby, his face troubled. He has the blood of kings, Daenerys. The Stormlands will rally to him. She turned upon him, her gaze a tempest barely contained. And what of your blood, Jon Snow? She demanded. Where do your loyalties truly lie? A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Tyrion Lannister stepped forward, ever the voice of reason in a court that danced too often upon the edge of madness. Your Grace, he said carefully, perhaps we can find a peaceful solution. The realm still bleeds from the last war. Daenerys' fingers curled into fists. Peace? With rebels who deny my birthright? Her voice was quieter now, but colder than the void beyond death. Jon, ever the reluctant prince, spoke again. I fought beside Gendry beyond the wall. He is honorable, brave. Daenerys cut him off with a flick of her hand. And a threat to everything we have built. Her dragons waited beyond the walls, their hunger unquenched. She would burn the Stormlands to cinders before she let another rebellion rise. The chamber beneath the Red Keep was cold, its damp stones slick with time's neglect. Shadows stretched long against the walls, shifting with the flicker of a lonely torch. Davos Seaworth stepped cautiously into the gloom. 7 hells, Lannister. This is madness. From the darkness, a figure emerged, the faint gleam of gold catching the light. Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, stood before him. Madness? Jaime's voice was weary, laced with bitterness. No, Seaworth, this is opportunity. Davos crossed his arms. The last time Lannisters and Baratheons made deals in shadows, the realm bled. Jaime stepped closer, the golden hand at his side clinking softly with each movement. And now it burns beneath dragonfire. Tell me, what's worse? Davos exhaled, shaking his head. Why support Gendry? What game are you playing? Jaime's mouth curled into a shadow of a smile, one born of ghosts and regrets. My sister is dead. My house is in ruins. But Casterly Rock's gold still flows. From the folds of his cloak, he produced a letter, its wax seal bearing the roaring lion of Lannister. Gold buys many things. Sellswords, alliances, treachery. The Stormlands have strength, Jaime murmured, but strength alone won't defeat dragons. Davos took the letter, his fingers lingering over the wax as though it burned. And if Gendry refuses your assistance? Jaime's expression darkened as he turned away. Then the storm that's coming will sweep us all away. The torch guttered, casting jagged shadows as Jaime disappeared into the dark, leaving Davos alone with a sealed letter and the weight of decisions yet to come. Outside, thunder rolled over King's Landing, and the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm had come, And no crown, no throne, no dragon's fire would hold it back. Beyond the wall, where darkness holds ancient secrets, something awakens. The heart tree loomed before him, its face carved deep into the pale bark. The roots trembled, cracking the ice as if something beneath was pushing upward. The wildling took a step back, his voice barely more than a breath. By the gods, a shadow moved between the trees, shifting like mist, its eyes gleaming like embers in the dark. Death comes not with ice this time, but with roots that reach deep into memory. The wildling's scream echoed, swallowed by the night. Then, silence. The hearth burned, but its warmth did little to thaw the growing dread. Sansa Stark held a letter in her hands, the parchment trembling just slightly. 3 more villages silent, no bodies found. Bran did not lift his gaze. They aren't dead, they're changed. The map of Westeros lay spread before them, marked with tokens of war, of blood, of conquest. Tyrion's hand hovered over the north, where the land lay untouched, yet not untouched. The north bleeds, yet leaves no blood. Daenerys' jaw tightened. I will not abandon the throne I've won for northern superstition. Jon's voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. Some threats are older than thrones. The sky burned gold and crimson, the light of dying embers. Below, the city hummed, unaware of the shadows creeping beyond the wall. Above, dragons soared, their cries piercing the heavens. Daenerys stood at the balcony's edge, her fingers resting against the cold stone. You would chase shadows and leave our kingdom vulnerable? Jon did not look at her. His gaze was fixed northward. If we ignore this, there may not be a kingdom left to rule. But the old gods remember when dragons were young, when first men knelt before heart trees, when magic ran deep in the roots of the world. And now they rise to reclaim what was always theirs. The tree's mouth curved into a terrible smile. Winter comes again, but this time, it brings something darker than snow.